welcome back to part 2 of my 4580 series chassis LS build. In this episode we'll go through mounting all the engine and gearbox, getting them mated together, so all the Marks adapter gear, getting all that sorted, cutting out the transmission tunnel and setting up the tube guards, bending them all up. So to mate up the engine and gearbox we've got to run a Marks adapters kit. So basically bought that comes with everything to set up. So it comes with your bell housing adapter, comes with a flywheel, spacer, and you run the stock 80 series clutch, and that basically allows you to bolt the two together. Then once we've got all that, I also got from Marks Adapters a high mount alternator bracket, so I can run that up above the engine so it's out of mud and stuff like that when we go through bog holes. Try and make it last a bit longer than it would otherwise. To get the engine to fit in the 80 chassis as well, I've also got a sump off Marks Adapters. So that's a rear hump sump, so it basically allows the diff to go through its range of motion and not hit the sump without cracking it, because yeah, obviously that's not ideal. To swap that all over, you need to change the oil pickup. When I got the Marks Adapters kit, you got to bolt on your flywheel. Well, it's like a kind of a flex plate stiffener, they call it. So you bolt that onto your flex plate, and then it's got a spacer that sort of sits out, sort of, I don't know, 80 mil sort of thing, and that basically spaces out your flywheel to account for all the difference, because you got your bell housing spacer adapter. So that just spaces it out. Then you got a flywheel that you bolt onto that's custom machined. Then obviously your clutch goes over that. But before you put the clutch and flywheel on, you get a feeler gauge, and basically mock it up so that just do a few rotations and check it's perfectly centered. So you know that you're not going to have any nasty vibrations or anything like that once it's all bolted up. Engine mounts, I used Billy McKinnon's kit, so McKinnon's Cruisers. So they all made it super easy. Then Uncle Steve came and helped me weld those in, so big shout out to you again, really appreciate that. Then yeah, once it was all together, we just basically picked up with a forklift, sat it in roughly, tacked up all the mounts. Once we had them tacked in place, we pulled the motor back out again, welded them up fully, primed them. We used our weld through primer so it doesn't rust. Then yeah, once it's out, painted, just protect it for the minute, then sat the engine back in with the gearbox. Cross member as well for the gearbox, that off Billy McKinnon, so that made it pretty easy. Bolted pretty well straight in, so just welded that all in as well at the same time. started with my tunnel. I've cut out basically everything to get it to physically fit. I patched the old 40 series boot spots. So basically, yeah, I've still got to fabricate and shape all of that, but it's all cut out anyway, so it's all sitting in there good. Then after that, I started on my tube guards. So basically gonna do those just to cover the extra track width of a 80 chassis, because the diffs are a fair bit wider than a 40 obviously. Plus then out full driving, you put them into trees and whatever else, you're not gonna have to worry about scratching them too much. Our tube bender is a Speedworks, just a type 2 manual bender. So we bought that pretty recently, and that thing's awesome. Because it's manual, it's a fair bit cheaper, but it's actually a fair, like, the bends on it are really good. It works a treat. I don't mind the manual. For the sort of 50 bends a year we're gonna do with it, you sort of put the effort in it. It's not too much work. The worst thing about the manual is you gotta have it bolted to the floor to use it. Yeah, with the hydraulic ones, you can obviously put on a trolley and push them around and just push them into the corner for the parts of the year you're not using it. So, but for $700, like, I think it's like 900 or whatever, it's so cheap compared to spending 3 or 4 grand on a bender. So yeah, recommend checking those guys out. They're an Aussie company, so yeah, that works really good. Love that bender, it works top notch. So I haven't covered too much of actually doing how to do a bit of tube work. I didn't film too much of it, but if you're interested in doing it yourself, I recommend checking out the Fabrication series on Facebook. He's an American bloke, but he's really good at explaining how to do all your notches, how to set that up, which yeah, it's sort of, there's a bit of an art to it, as in I don't use a tube notch or anything like that. Basically, yeah, just use a grinder. If you watch his videos, you'll understand, but just, yeah, trying to keep costs down as well. With the tube guards, I sort of made the outside bar first, and made like an like the inside bar, braced it all. Mocked it up, sort of made a jig, got some bar and clamped it up to put the front clip on, clamped all the bar up to it and made it sit where I had it, got it all sitting where I wanted. Then tacked the plates onto the chassis, tacked it all, got it sitting good, finish welded the guards. Then I cut it off the chassis again, I've used a bit of 10mm plate, 2 bits of 10mm plate sandwiched together, and then I've just got bolts go through that with like tap threads into the plate. So basically, yeah, just unbolt it and one side will stay on the chassis. Then once I've welded them all back on, I then got the bit of 1.5 or 2mm plate, I think, and skinned over the guards. So basically just cut out the rough shape for the back half of it, tacked it in place, and then basically just over time just pressed it, heated it a bit, just pressed the skins down, bent them into shape, cut the hole for the indicators. So yeah, welded them all up now anyway, so they're finished welded the whole way around the skin. I was going to do part, but I thought if I do the whole way, it's right, it's not going to crack in the future. So still got to grind all those back, but they're all welded and bolted on now, so pretty happy with how they've come out. Going to do with the tray, I'm thinking I'm going to run like a narrow style side type of tray. So I'm not sure if any of you guys will remember Big Red from the old 4-wheel-drive action days, but sort of similar to that. So pretty narrow sort of tray. Have the tyres mounted on the side of the style sides, on the outside of it, and have big tube guards, probably jerry can holders and stuff like that on the back too. So I think that'll work out pretty good. Tube headboard and kickers and cross braces and all that sort of stuff. So that should look pretty good. Because for what I'm going to use the ute for, I'm not going to drive it every day. I'm not going to have to put tools in it or anything like that. It's purely just for having some fun, for 4-wheel driving and camping. I'll be able to put dirt bikes and stuff in the back of it still, but yeah, it'll look pretty tough and have good clearance. So having the tyres on the side sort of helps when you're 4-wheel driving. If the tyres will keep you off embankments and stuff like that. If I was to roll it, the tyre's going to take most of the blow being on the side and try and keep the body panels away from rocks and stuff like that if we can avoid it, especially with the price of 40 series parts at the minute. A bit expensive to put a $600 door into a tree, so try and avoid that if we can. Alright, so I'm aiming to have a video come out about once a month. It's a bit tricky at the minute. I'm sort of spacing them out a little bit because I'm doing year 12. Because of lockdown too, we're stuck to 5k at home within our radius at the minute, so can't really go in and work on it. So obviously we should be out of that pretty soon. Keep an eye out, there'll be a video within a month, and then yeah, every few weeks after that once I'm done with exams. Gonna try and have the build finished relatively early next year, so yeah, sort of try and keep a video coming out once a month. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Cheers.